The potato originated in the highlands of Peru around Lake Titicaca. Over 200 species of wild potato are to be found in the Americas, and it's from these the potato we're familiar with today developed. It would have been sometime after the Spanish conquest of South America in 1532 that the potato was first introduced to Europe. How the potato made its way to Ireland remains somewhat uncertain. Popular opinion is that the potato was introduced towards the end of the 16th century by explorer Sir Walter Raleigh at his estate in Youghal, County Cork. It's also believed that potatoes may very well have been introduced to Ireland around the same time through normal trade with Spain. What is certain is, following its introduction, the potato quickly became the staple diet of Irish people. An almost total reliance on the potato as a source of food and repeated crop failure due to potato blight is what led to mass starvation in Ireland between 1845 and 1852. Known as the Great Famine and Gorta Mór. During this great hunger, it's estimated over 1 million people died and a further 2 million emigrated. The introduction of blight-resistant varieties and later chemicals that controlled blight meant the potato continued to play an important part in the daily diet of Irish people. Although prices fluctuated greatly, nevertheless, during the 1950s, 60s and 70s, potato exports from Ireland generated a reliable source of income for growers, gatherers and buyers. This is the Lagan Valley in rural northeast Donegal. A wealth of land that lies between the River Foyle and River Swilly. It is here the Scots settled when first they arrived in Ulster at the beginning of the 17th century. The rich soil, altitude and prevailing winds together make this area ideal for growing potatoes. In the years 1965-66, it's estimated 65,000 tonnes of potatoes were exported from this region. Here the potato is also known as the spud or the purdy. It's late summer and the potato crop has been in the ground since spring. It's an anxious time for growers as they now depend on Mother Nature to yield a good and plentiful crop. It's around this time of year growers can be seen in the fields checking how the crop has progressed and if it's nearing time for harvesting.
We've done a dig here and the estimated weight on the dig is 22 pounds, 119 spuds in the dig. So we've divided the dig up into percentage here just to see what seed content we have. Here we have under 55 millimetre, we have a percentage of 12.6. Here we have the 55 millimetre and we have a percentage of 76.47 of seed content. Here we have over 55, the wear, and we have a percentage of 11.76. So in this dig I would reckon this field of records will be ready for burning.
Some varieties depend on the variety, depend on the land you plant them in, and depend on the year you're working with. Starting off with the purdies themselves, some varieties of purdies will grow in a clump up close to the top of the drills. And then other purdies will settle down deeper at the bottom of the drill. So then if you have a dry year, purdy has to go, the roots has to go down and look for water. So that's enough, the purdies, actually tubers then formed down deep. You know, and then the ground, some ground is open that the roots can work their way down no problem. You want a good open ground, but then if you have tighter ground, they'll sit down on top of the ground.
It's in the local pub that farmers meet and socialise. So it's not at all surprising the conversation soon turns to the purdy.
Playing purdies and stones in the bags.
I grew iron banners and they said they're very bad purdies rating, but I give him a good bag of purdies for his dinner, see how I get on. And I come back and I says, well, Wally, how did you get on them? I said, best purdies I ever got, he says. He says, I put them on a foot water and pour them twice, he says.
They were good purdies.
That's Wally for you.
Yeah.
Two Gallagher's now. One recruit.
That's very wet there, right? I mean, not much in it, cleared up the other maybe. No. We're not.
No, they're not now.
Aye.
Well, I think we'll go for the same squad we had last year there. Them Gallagher's there for Kilgourt there.
That's it, the squad now. But they'll be hard to get.
Hard to get some, but £2 a day last year, and the boss told me they're going to try to get a bit more this year.
I think they're going to be there the year.
Get them down, so I don't know
The price.
what we're going to do.
Them planks you're chatting about, John. You're in my breath while now. It's time you look a new side, sir. I'll get you look a new side the year, sir. What about you, fella?
I'm looking for a wee laugh too.
Once we stop gathering with them with a hand and the oil wooden cup, if we stop that, that's the end of the parties in Donegal.
Jim, let me move on to you because we had the wooden grips long enough and now we're starting to get. Do you ever see the wee plastic basket that we're getting now?
No, I ain't started them yet. I'm still with oil cups.
They break on the plastic basket, they over the top of one, it'll just bring back the same shape again.
Some of the dialect heard here derives from the Ulster Scots culture, which has a long history in these parts and continues to be spoken right across the Lagan Valley. This is a story of how around the middle of the last century a family of 17 called the Gallaghers sold their labour gathering potatoes for farmers here in the Lagan Valley in northeast Donegal. This production is in part a reenactment by the Gallaghers themselves together with family and friends, a potato merchant, also farmers and growers of the time. As the story unfolds, we hear accurate accounts of how life was back then, and we learn how potato harvesting has developed through the decades from the spade to the modern day harvester. David Gallagher takes up the story.
There were 17 of us in the family altogether. There was 15, 8 brothers and 7 sisters, and the mother and father were 17. The typical day, gathering produce was the man that you were going till on a Monday morning. He come to the house, the tractor and trailer. So 86 was your day's work, and you took a tea break at 10 and 12 and 3. Everybody knows what they had to do, and they done their bit, and that's just the way it was.
At the end up, there were 15 children, and my mother and father was 17. We did live in a smaller house, and there was 2 bedrooms in it. And then we were lucky enough to get the council house, and that had 3 bedrooms in it, a wee scullery and a kitchen and an outside toilet. I remember the day we flitted, and all we had was a table and 2 chairs and 2 double beds, and we walked them up the road like a line of wee ants. And that's the way we went up the road. But anyway, as time went on and the family was added to, things got a lot tighter, because my father wasn't working at that time and his door was 18 and 6. I'll never forget that. And you can imagine feeding maybe 7 or 8 and 18, 6 a week. And my mother baked a lot. She had no choice but bake, because most of the times it was big 4-stone bags of flour you got, maybe a ton of treacle, and that's what you ate. And there was no such thing as steak or anything. Maybe you might have months for Sunday dinner if you were lucky. The first day I started gathering spuds, I was 8, and I was thought of as strong enough to be able to go out and do the work that entailed. And that was a kind of like a tradition with every one of us. When you reached either 8 or 9, and at that time you were working, when I started was 5 bob a day, that's about 60p, and the day's money. And I remember praying for wet days, because at least in the wet days I got to go to school. And even education way by that time was very scanty. But the worst thing of the lot was the frozen fingers and the frozen feet, when the frost was sticking to the spuds and you had to batter them off. It was really, really hard work. You definitely wouldn't put an 8-year-old doing that today. You'd hardly even get a 16-year-old to do it.
Times was hard everywhere for those. And times when you were digging, you would have seen a mother coming with a heap of wains with her begging the farmer for a bag of pretties, or a burden of pretties, whatever you would call them.
To fill the bag for you here, Jess. You need to take a wain out of the pram now and set the bag of pretties on the pram. And carry the wain, and maybe some of them boys will give you a hand out to the gate again. Them's very good parties for eating.
That's great, so does
They're
it?
very good, they're very dry, they're tears pinks.
That's brilliant.
Call back any time again, we'll give you back any time, you know, because I never like to see nobody wanting a party.
Alright, thank you.
And at Christmas time now, I'll give you 2 back.
That's great, that'll be
All the
lovely.
best, and look after the wins.
A whole lot of that went on. And times they got them and times they didn't. The farmers was tight times, they wouldn't give a bag of pretties. It's just the way it was.
Nice pretties there.
Ah, them's nice pretties there, a good crop of pretties there now.
Good well digging them pretties there now. A whole lot of pretties dig there. A whole lot of pretties there.
They're rather right in there, but have you 2 or 3 days with that squad now, you wouldn't be long.
You would never miss a win.
Well, you'd miss on the farmers. Knows he watches like a hawk, you know.
Does he?
Aye, he does.
You work for the farm.
I'll do the bit of work to the farmer. Are you after someone now, you just?
Oh, no, I'm not looking for nothing.
No, you're not looking for nothing.
No.
Right.
Go on with your work.
Well, I would need to go on there and can't keep going here, you know.
Tell them on it, tell them on it. These parties belongs to me. I can't recall you asking me for them.
No, you give that woman pretties.
Oh, but that was different. That woman had 6 wee wins. You didn't tell me you had 6 wee wins. And anyway, that coop there, I get 2 or 3 shillings to make them for me.
Good, you're a hard man.
Well, I can't.
Hey.
I'll give you the parties, but I can't give you the coop.
You should have no way of carrying them pretties.
You 12 bags tied around your legs here. And take one of them off and we'll put the pretties in the bag and you can take a bag and the pretties with you. Take off a bag off your leg there and I'll empty them into the...
You're a cross man.
No, it's no that at all. It's no that at all. No. You know us, the old coop's worth more than the pretties on it.
God, you think a whole lot of an old box. Hey? You think a whole lot of a box.
It's no that at all. I can't dig without them, man. You know.
God, you'd manage with one box.
Well, you wait to think that, but as I said, of course, 2 or 3 shillings to get them made, and the man that makes them well busy making them for other party growers, for by me. He couldn't make me boxes now, he says, for a month. There now, that's the best I can do for you. You got your parties and I got my box.
The wife would have licked that now to set it here.
I knew that's what you were after, was out. Lift you a bike and I'll set them on for you.
God, you're a right fella at the same time.
Aye, well, you didn't like to see anybody, you know, wasn't a meal of parties. Call back anytime.
How the squad thing come about, there's a farmer next door to where we lived. They had a squad in from Gidore. And we were always watching what they were doing, you see, and studying what they were at and watched what they were at for a while. There were 10 people on the field gathering pretties after the tractor. And we inquired into it and what to the farmer, what were they doing? And he says they're in here now as a squad, they have this field taken now, so they have to dig it at a price. It doesn't matter whether 4 acres or 3 acres, that's the way it was. You were getting paid by the acre then at that time. They were digging and gathering. And at that time, some of our boys must have been talking at night in the house, our own house, seen the idea and come up with the idea that says, why could we not do this, keep it in the family? So that's how that came about, and that's how we started out with the squad. Growers would come about the middle of August, they book you in advance. They'd come, someone would come on a tractor and someone would come on a bike and someone would come on an old car. Depends what they had just at the time. That's the way it was.
God, you must be one in parties this year. You've had some buying, huh?
Aye, thank you. Going on here, you see. A man out here looking for a pretty girl down David.
He's lying on here, Stephen. Come on, sir. Waking up, there's a man on the stick looking for you.
Well, you'd have to talk a price then, so much an acre, and that's the way it was done.
Here again, that's right.
Have you many to dig?
But 22 acre a year.
That's a whole lot.
Well, a 10 acre burned off there early. Maybe another week's time. How would you be fixed?
Well, you're first anyway, so you're chatting about next Monday.
Aye.
Would you like to come out for a cup of tea, fella?
Take a cup of tea, surely, David.
They weren't that hard to deal with now, but they liked a good day's work at the same time. You just weren't going to go on that field and take a half an acre and they'd be happy enough. That's not the way it worked. You'd be looking for their acre and a half to 2 acres. Near enough every day.
That's a bad at all.
Not so bad. How's things?
Is David good?
Hi, he's in the house there, John.
See you for getting a lot of getting boxes ready, anyway.
I'm getting it all lined up here now.
What's he charging the year, Dave?
Well, it was 70 last year, Jim, and it's 75 the year. The squad's looking for a bit more. Mightn't come out with me if I don't get it.
That's 75. That's for the Cunningham acre.
That's for the Conley acre, so that's the only acre we ever worked with.
Ah, well,
it's the only one I know.
There are a whole pile of acres, but
well, that's the Conley acre. We'll stick to that.
That's
the same as every other
that's
year.
The big acre.
That's the big acre.
Just to be sure, you know, because better to sort it now than have an argument about it later.
Oh, that is right. You're right.
That's the Cunningham acre.
That's the Cunningham acre anyway, and that's what we'll dig.
That's in the Lagan we have what you call a Cunningham acre. We only have it in Donegal, we don't have it anywhere else. And the Cunningham acre is, the simple way of describing it is 4 rood, whereas the statute acre is 3 rood. So the farmer always had the edge on the Gallaghers because they got 4 rood dug for the price of 3 rood.
We had about 10 to 12 different customers, or same customers every year. Well, you had Josie McBurdy and John James Duncan, Cunningham Duncan, Jim Devaney, Sean Grant, Jim McLaughlin. And you had them all the time, you see, because they were coming back every year anyway. So you just sort of took them in rotation. Whoever come first, you booked the river first, then the next man come in, and the next. And sometimes some man had a field wet, you'd leave one man and try and go into him just to get this couple of acre out of the bad field. Or if you had a man with a lot of early produce and they had to go before September, he had to get them dug as well. So you're chopping and changing to suit everybody.
Davey, you waking?
Come on, you slow. The tractor tiller's here for you now. Come on.
The miller, the Donegal called us at about 7 o'clock to get up because the tractor is normally coming on the 10 to 8.
Right, go easy, Dave. Go easy. Is everybody easy?
There's somebody missing here, boss.
Jimmy, come on.
Some took an odd lazy spell, but that's beside the point. Well, there weren't many squads about at that time. There was an odd squad and a lot of squads moved on to Scotland and all so that. So we didn't move, we stayed where we were. They were happy enough with us, we were a good squad and we'd done the job well, and they were happy enough they didn't have to change. That's the way they kept coming back to us.
The entire family, all 17, travelled together around the countryside as a team, or gang as they were known, gathering potatoes for growers.
The Gallagher family went in as a squad to the farmer, and the farmer dug the produce. He put on the machinery. We were just in there as to gather and empty. That was our job. And I was the head of the squad at the time, so it took somebody to organise things, you know, yourself. And you had to mark the field, so you had to go over to the ditch and hopefully get a good trade to get a hand in bushes. So when I was stepping the field, it would have given everybody 10 or 12 yards, depending on the length of the drill. If your drill was 20 yards long, if you had 10 or 12 gallers, they're getting 10 or 12 yards each. When I went out first, the tractor that I mined off was a Ford 3000, full of bushes, with an out digger on behind her. That worked just with a power shaft on behind just and his power driven. As he put her into gear and moved on, she dug, she threw them out, and out the right bit at that time. They were fairly wide, so they were. It meant you had a lot of extra work to do. That's what it meant, because you're way out trying to get the scattered ones, and you're in, then getting the ones in close, so you're moving about a whole lot. In 1977, the day's pay was from 8 to 6, was £2 a day. That was tough work, because you gathered about 1.5 to 2 acres a day. You might have got a smoke break now and again, but that's still, it was hard work. The tractor and trailer, you had 2 men emptied into that all the time, then they took them away to the pit in the field then and come back again. Everybody at the same amount together, you're getting the same stunt, whether it's 10 yards or 12 yards or whatever it may be. Just kept everybody right, you know where they start and you know where they finish. That was the idea of the marking of the field. it didn't always work out like that, because everybody moved their own mark then as they got closer to the stick, you see. Then if somebody maybe was getting a bit tired or the back was sore, they would have maybe pulled the stick up 2 yards, and they'd only been gillered maybe 8 yards, and it left the person behind them gillered 14 yards. Then that would have went on for a while, and the one behind them would have copped on what was going on, why they were finished so quick. The one above them finished first, and they weren't finished. So they were calling me a shout to see what was wrong here. Then when I stepped it again and copped on what the one up above was doing, they moved the stick.
Before the Legger man goes, you got the same old crack again. What happened just there, boys?
They're always the old row, an old pretty throw. You always got that. But he was sitting behind this one here with the pretty's not gillered. So it was. So they had to get a pretty's gillered, let the digger go on, and we had to re-step the whole thing again.